So we've had about a week of the MLB season. And of course, the Dodgers are raking, so are the Padres. But let's look at some stats and some trends that have kind of caught our eye and say, okay, is this something that we should read into? Or is this an anomaly? And we have like 155 games left in the schedule. This is probably not going to be a thing, until September. So first off, the White Sox, their pitching staff actually has pretty good numbers this year. If you remember, the White Sox were one of the worst teams of all of baseball last season. If you look at win totals, they had one of the lowest win totals of any team entering the season. But they're off to a hot start. If you look at their team ERA, it's the second best ERA in the American League right now at 2.83. And I feel like if you look at the names of their starters, you're probably not going to recognize a ton of them. So, Jenks, let me ask you, is this a trend that we should be following, or is this an anomaly?
This has to be an anomaly, right? Doesn't it? Can this continue? I don't think it can. How many Red Sox pitchers had Tommy John surgery or were scheduled for Tommy John surgery during spring training alone? Like 6 guys? Seriously. And
you mean White Sox?
Yeah, White Sox.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the rotation right now. I honestly don't know many of these guys.
Right.
Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, Sean Burke. Sounds like a frat house. Shane Smith from the Smith family. Martin Perez, okay. But if this lasts, this has to be an anomaly. It's like the Braves starting the season winless. Like, who would have guessed that? They got to pick up some wins at some point. At some point, the White Sox have to start playing like the White Sox, or at least pitching that way.
Well, and here's the other thing. They started the season playing the Angels, and also they've had some rainy weather. So, there are some things that directly correlate to this, where it's easier for the pitchers when you're facing one of the worst lineups in baseball. The Angels are not good. I'll say this about Martin Perez. He's a good pitcher. It wouldn't shock me if he has a great season for the White Sox, but the rest of those guys, I feel like they're kind of unproven commodities. So we'll see if we continue to see these numbers from the White Sox staff for the rest of the season. All right, number 2, NL playoff hopefuls, Braves and Brewers are off to a combined 2-11 start. The Braves, I think, were like plus 135 to win the NL East. The Brewers were one of the favorites in their division as well. So, Jenks, is this a trend or anomaly?
Well, I'm going to say anomaly. I have to believe that these two teams, it's a long season, as we know. So at some point, are these teams going to be this bad? Maybe they have disappointing seasons. But as I always say, there are degrees to things. Do I think the Braves and Brewers are just going to scrape the bottom of the National League all season long? No, I don't. Especially the Braves. And especially when they get Ronald Acuna Jr. back, which is going to be a huge boost for them. Also, they do get Jerkson Profar back after, 80 games? So he can return in the latter half of the season. So if they can just, keep their heads above water and kind of just get their bearings here, then in the second half of the season in particular, I think they can make some sort of run. They're just too good not to. And even the odds tell you this. The Braves right now are 10-1 to win the World Series, right behind the Dodgers and Yankees. So even the markets are saying, okay, bad start, you guys are going to be fine. So I think this is an anomaly.
Well, also look at the schedule. The Braves go out of spring training on the East Coast. Did I lose you guys? No, I'm still there. It froze for a second on me. But you go out of spring training on the East Coast and you fly out to San Diego to play the Padres, one of the best teams in baseball. Oh, then you get to face the Dodgers, probably the best team in all of baseball. So you look at some of these teams that have more wins. You're like, hey, the White Sox even have 2 wins. Yeah, they haven't played the Padres and the Dodgers. This is probably a nightmare to start the season. If you pick 2 teams to start the season against, I wouldn't pick the Padres and Dodgers. That would be last on my list. So maybe it eases up for the Braves when they get to face some teams that aren't world beaters. Because next series, they do get the Marlins, and they finally get to go home. The Braves still haven't played a home game. And usually, year after year, the Braves are very good at home. They have a good home crowd advantage in Atlanta. People really like the Braves in the South. So I think this is just the start of the season that just, happened to be against 2 of the best teams in baseball.
Yes, I agree with you. And so scheduling is a really good point. It's easy just to look at a number and say, oh, look, look at all these games you've lost or all the games that you've won. So once the Braves, I think, get back at home, like you were talking about, and kind of settle in, and then I think we're going to see the team that we thought we were going to see at the beginning of the season. That's a tough way to start the year.
Yeah. All right. So let's roll through these other ones. Rafi Devers, we've already poked fun of him on the show, lovingly, of course. Bless his heart. So he started the season 2 for his first 21. He's had a ton of strikeouts. He's not making good connection, but we know he's a good hitter. So,
Yeah.
Jenks, is this just a slump, or is this something where you say, hey, he's lost his confidence? This is not a player I want to back.
I now Dylan was saying in the chat, he's our local Red Sox fan, was saying, oh, just wait until June, July when the guy has 17 plus home runs. Maybe he will. But I kind of think this might be a trend because this is a guy who, look, he has all the talent in the world. There's no question about it. But I wonder how much the switch to DH is affecting him because he was clearly upset before the season. That was a thing. He did not like the fact that he would go into the season not playing third base or not being in the field after the trade for Bregman. So, or the signing of Bregman. So he was like, okay, well, where am I going to be? Because I don't want to just do this. But he's doing what he did not want to do. And for all the talent in the world, when you're being forced into a role that you don't want, I think that has an effect on you. So it's not going to continue at this rate, but could we see a down season from him based on the transition he's making? Yeah, I think so.
I think I'm going to go the opposite way because I think that every single great hitter in baseball, you're going to have slumps. That's just how baseball is. Even Aaron Judge, just last year during the postseason, had a stretch during 12 games, 6 for 43. He was hitting 140 with 20 strikeouts. So if Aaron Judge, somebody who is one of the best hitters in all of baseball, can have a slump,
Yeah.
Rafi Devers can have a slump too. So I just think it's one of those things where, ride through it. Don't let it shake your confidence. But I do think he will get out the other end alive. He's too good of a hitter not to. So I think this is just kind of an anomaly. But I know it's not fun to sit there and watch him do that. It's not fun to watch people struggle.